Hello, BookTube. I'm back with the second volume of the Dance to the Music of Time series by Anthony Powell called Buyer's Market, and it's from this omnibus edition of the first three books. And as I say, it's called A Buyer's Market. It was published in 1952. And we see Nicholas Jenkins, our narrator, a few years on after the first volume. It's now in the late 20s. He is ensconced in London, and he is working for an art publisher. And it starts out with a reminiscence of a child reminiscence in Paris regarding an old family friend called Mr. Deacon. And just from that, you know that, well, Deacon's going to pop up in this story, and yes, he does. And also, Widmerpool reappears. Nicholas Jenkins, is in love with a woman, or it's an on and off love for a woman, and he gets asked to a dance party, a dinner party. And that's where he meets Widmerpool, who is sort of climbing his way around the social scene and society. He is still working to become a solicitor, and they actually as they leave the party, it turns out that Widmerpool is also has been in love with the same woman since childhood. Basically, they grew up together or nearby. But she humiliates him at this party by dumping a whole bowl of sugar on him. And so he leaves, and so does Nicholas, and they sort of walk a ways together and chat a little bit, and they meet this Mr. Deacon that Nicholas Jenkins was reminiscing about at the beginning of the novel. Mr. Deacon is or was a painter, and there was a painting at the dinner party in the house, the dinner party of his. And they get to talking. He realizes who it is, and they start chatting. And Mr. Deacon is with another young woman, Gypsy. Her name is Gypsy. And they're handing out pamphlets, anti-war pamphlets, while selling them for a penny a piece. And but they also bump into one of their old school chums, and he takes the whole party, all five of them, including himself, to another big party that's going on with this sort of rich society woman who seems to get about a little bit. And it's quite a raucous party for the late 20s, with lots of people there, so people coming and going. And there they meet, Jenkins meets his, what is he now exactly? He's sort of the house master, I guess, or something like that would be called. I can't remember his exact title, but when he was at Oxford. And he warns Jenkins about hanging around with Mr. Deacon. They're a bad lot, basically. But Jenkins does like him, and Widmerpool actually is taken by Gypsy. He basically falls in love with Gypsy. And they go their own way after that party. Jenkins shows up at Mr. Deacon's house, which, well, is actually he's now a antique dealer, and they're sort of strange people. There's another caretaker that's there, sort of semi caretaker that's very knowledgeable about society and other things that are going on. And they meet, like they just keep Jenkins keeps running into like Widmerpool and other fellow students when they were at school together. And Widmerpool and himself, they get invited to a big castle. And that's an interesting thing, because it's another like very high society. And Widmerpool sort of, tells about his sort of affair or wanting affair with Gypsy. But Jenkins is still told that he should be staying away from this Mr. Deacon, but Mr. Deacon dies, so it's sort of a sad time for Jenkins, because it's an old family friend. There's a lot of good childhood memories associated with this. And it's another book that's like the first one. The beginning doesn't start out as well, for me anyway. And also too, his uncle shows up again, Uncle Giles, and because, as I say, it seems like it's just too coincidental the way Powell is writing this, that he talks about a memory that Jenkins has, and that's going to happen. What's going to happen. It doesn't seem to happen organically. It's almost forced, where the characters appear. And the good, like I say, it's got some good writing in it, especially when they're at the castle. And the descriptions of the castle and the dungeons, and even some of the dialogue there is pretty good. But there's still, like Widmerpool, where he says before in the first book about reading, like, reading too much is not good for you. He in this time, finds out that Jenkins is working for an art publisher, and he's going, who buys art books? That's the kind of response he gets. And he actually gets to meet Widmerpool's mother. He gets asked to dinner, and he finds out Widmerpool's first name, which he never knew, his Christian name, which is Kenneth. And they, like, Widmerpool is sort of attaching himself to him, and considers Jenkins a friend, a close friend, an old friend. Jenkins doesn't really care for him too much. But he doesn't seem to be any interest in keeping him at arm's length, it seems. And again, it's these characters who, they just sort of swan in and swan out and swan around. And they, like, the ones will say, oh, that so-and-so's, not egotistical. Sorry, I'm struggling for a word here. Snobbish. They're saying so and so's snobbish. They all are. They all are. The way they treat the way they treat Widmerpool is abominable, and make fun of him. But he just sort of continues on with this, and people still interact with him if they don't like him, and it's just. It's again this kind of society that is just fake on the outside and little substance on the inside, and that's what it's coming through. And maybe that's what Powell is meant to show. I'm still up in the air about this series because it just doesn't pull me in. Like no character is likable here, and the and again, like, it's supposed to be humor, and I get told that it's British humor. Well, I am familiar with British humor, and I catch what they're supposed to be doing is humorous, but I don't find it funny. So that's the one thing. Like, there are funny things in it, but I don't think I'm finding the parts that are humorous the way it was meant to be, because I'm laughing at them being so, it's almost as if they're upper class twits, the Monty Python upper class twits. There is an interesting thing with this. There's a little bit of reference to other literature, but the big thing, especially in this book, but even in the first one, just from the title, Dance to the Music of Time, art. And Powell refers, rather than saying, making a distinction or a reference to a piece of literature, like a lot of writers do, he makes that reference, or that reference of a person, to a painting, which is quite interesting. And I'm a bit of a fish out of water there, because I may be aware of the painter, and I might sort of be aware of some of the paintings, but not very much. So I'm better grounded in the literature, in the fiction that they reference, and I can catch those references easier. So I did, on this occasion, look up some of the paintings that he was referring to, and I am seeing some correlation there. But it would be more for a art connoisseur, I think, like that knows these artists and their art intimately. And I think that would give a deeper meaning. It's the same as, knowing the literature that is being referenced. If you know that and have read it, then you can see more depth to what the writer is doing. So yeah, I'm as I say, I'm still going on with it, but I am struck with how well he can write. Like I say, it's I'm still don't know what he's trying to do with this, because I've only read three of these stories before, and this is the third time rereading the first three. Now, hopefully by the time I'm done, I will get a sense of what he's doing. If he is trying to show that the society, this river novel of, English society, and English society is trite, and he might be showing that. And if he is doing that, then he's doing it well. Because it just screams, every single character screams this. And they're not really interesting. They're not interesting in the sense of what they do, what they say. I'm not interested in them as people. Now, then you might say, well, then what's the use of writing this? But if you do this over a longer period of time, there could be, there, like, as a whole, it might actually show something that you're missing by looking at the parts. It's the same as looking at a part of a picture, if I can use that, and then once you zoom out and look at the whole thing, then you get the idea for this. And one of my big problems that I still have, and I think it's a problem, I'm still comparing it to Strangers and Brothers series by C.P. Snow. That is a series that has, to me, a lot more depth to it in the characters, likable characters. But C.P. Snow's writing isn't, and his narration isn't as good as Anthony Powell. I'm now able to say that and see that. Because when Anthony Powell gets going in his narration and descriptions of the surroundings, they are extremely, extremely good. And even if I can't find interest in the characters, I'm waiting for those little nuggets to come, and those are satisfying me up to this point, and hoping that, as I say, that the whole will make more sense than the parts. So the whole is more than the sum of the parts. I suppose you could say that. Anyway, that's A Buyer's Market. The next one in this volume, the third book, is The Acceptance World. I can't remember what it's about, but yeah, I'm just looking at the back here. There's quotations here, like from Yves Lemois. Dry, cool, humorous, elaborately and accurately constructed, and quintessentially English. It is more realistic than à la recherche de temps perdus, to which it is often compared, and much funnier. You see, I don't get the humor. Like, it's just, yeah, it's still escaping me. I am finding humor in it, and maybe I am finding the correct humor, but I sort of think that I'm not. But maybe I'm underestimating it, or underestimating myself with this. But anyway, next month, March, will be The Acceptance World, and then we'll plow on. Thank you, BookTube.